Okay, today we're going to be looking at simple interest. So you should have your book open to page 167. And remember, your responsibility is to watch this, really be focused on it, take good notes as you go along. We will then discuss this in class on Monday. So simple interest, let's go down to the real world link and get some startup vocabulary first. So principal, this is your money. So when you look at the idea of principal, this is your starting money. You go to the bank, you say, I want to open an account. You have to give them some money to open the account. Simple interest is what you earn on the money. So you put it in the bank, you say, hang on to this for me. The bank says, great, we will pay you some money to hold on to your money. Because what the bank then does is the bank goes and it loans the money to somebody else. And they get their profit on what they call the spread. So you may earn, let's say you earn 1% at the bank. But if your neighbor goes to borrow money from the bank charges them 6 or 7 or 8%. That difference between, say, 7% and 1%, that's how the bank makes its money, how it pays its employees, how it affords to turn on the lights and pay its rent, all of those things. So there are a couple different components here. We're going to look at this word bank. This I is the interest. That's how much you're trying to earn. That's the interest. Here's how we figure out how much interest you'll get. Here are the 3 factors that go into the interest. First is the principal, how much money you put in. The second is the rate, how much the bank pays you. And the last is the time. That's how long you leave it in. So the principal, again, this is your starting money. The rate is how much the bank pays. And this will always be a percent. So when the bank goes, we're going to pay you a certain amount, they'll show you that as a percent. And then time is how long you leave it in. How long you leave your money in. How long you leave your money in the bank. The longer you leave it in, the more you earn. Now, let me fix my word bank here because that's pretty horrible writing. So, how long you leave the money in the bank will determine how much interest you earn. So let's go down and actually do a problem. Mrs. Ramirez is going to put $400 into a savings account. So based on what you see here, think about where that 400 would go. Hopefully, you said the 400 is the principal. That's Mrs. Ramirez's money. That is her money that she's starting with. Where the rate is 2%, so there's the 2% rate, she's going to leave the money for 18 months. 18 months. Now notice, this is months and this is years. What do you have to do to get from 18 months into years? Well, every month or every year has 12 months. So you do 18 divided by 12 and you get 1.5. So that money is left in for 1.5 years. All right, let's go to the next page. So they give you the simple interest formula. And the simple interest formula is right here. We're going to write that out. So it is interest equals principal times, the R is rate, times time. Would you make sure you write that out? Interest, what you earn, equals principal times rate times time. How much you put in times how long, or how much the bank gives you, times how long you leave it in the bank. So if we go down to this first example, it says Arnold puts in $500. The account pays 3%. How much will he earn in each amount of time? In 5 years, 580 times 3%, that's 3% as a decimal, times 5. For 6 months, again, there's the 3%. Here is 6 months as years. You're always doing this in years. So 580 times 3% as a decimal times 0.5. That's the 6 months. All right, here are a couple got it problems. Let's have you do these. Remember, pause the video, do the got it problem, check back. We're going to do A and B. And what I would suggest is if you do A and you get it correct, go right on to look at the answer for B. If you get A wrong, look over the work that we do together when we correct A, or when we discuss A, and then check yourself on B. So go ahead, do A and B, and then start the video up again. Okay, let's take a look at problem A. So remember, principal times rate times time. Interest equals principal times the rate times the time. So in this case, in case A, we're doing problem A now, the interest will equal the principal, 1,560, times the rate. So we're going to take that and change it to a decimal, 0.025, times the time. How much will she earn in 3 years? Remember, if you have any confusion still about this part where you're changing percents to decimals, there's a video just about percents to decimals. It gives you a place to do some practice, so take a look at that. Okay, let's get our calculator out. Real world tools for real world problems. 1,560 times 0.025 equals, so that's $39. We're going to break this down. So that $39, that is per year. Each year that Jenny puts the money in, it's going to earn $39. That's what you get when you multiply the principal times the rate. We need to multiply that by 3 to see how much Jenny gets for the 3 years. So multiply that times 3, and we get $117. And that is, please label it, that is the total interest. So check yourself. Did you get 117? If you didn't, go back and look at those steps before you continue the video to the explanation on part B. Go ahead. Pause if you need to. Okay, part B. So let's do part B right up in this space. They give us some room. So our interest in part B, let me get my calculator out of the way, equals the principal, $760, times the rate. In this case, the rate is 4%, so that's 0.04. 0.04 times 5 years. That's the amount of time. So my first calculation will be to get the annual interest. Annual means per year. So the 760 times 0.04 will give me $30.40 per year. Again, that's also called the annual interest. Write that down right here. Annual interest. That's how much you get per year. So then we'll take that $30.40 times 5. So we've still got the $30.40 in our calculator times 5, and that equals $152. That's our final answer. That is the total interest. Okay, so take a look back on your work for A and B, see how you did with those two before we move on. All right, I flipped over to the next page. Let's look at some more information and some more examples. So if you borrow money from a bank, so what we were looking at before was people who put money in a bank and earn the interest. If you borrow money from a bank, you have to pay the interest. The formula, the great news is the formula is identical. It doesn't matter whether you're borrowing it or you're earning it. Figuring out the interest is still the same. So let's go down to example 3, and we'll see an example of where somebody actually has to pay the interest. So in example 3, Rondell's parents borrow $6,300 to get a new car. The interest is 6% a year. How much will they pay if it takes 2 years to repay the loan? And notice the process was exactly the same. The principal, this time principal is what they borrow, so let's write that down. Now principal is what they borrow. That's what the $6,300 is. Times how long, or times the interest rate, the bank's charging 6%, times the number of years. And then here's the process, and you can see they're going to pay $756, multiplying those out. All right, example 4, the very same idea. So Derek's dad bought some new tires, $900, used his credit card, interest rate of 19%. Man, if you can learn one thing, or one of the most important life lessons to learn, is pay off your credit cards as soon as you can, because credit cards are super expensive. So, same idea, $900, that's the amount he borrowed. 0.19, that's 19% as a decimal, times 1/12. So we might want to think about, what does 1/12 look like as a decimal? 1 divided by 12 is 0.083. So interest owed after 1 month is $14.25 because you multiply the 900 times the 0.19 times the 1/12, which is 0.83. Let's see if we get the same answer they get. 900 times 0.19 times 0.083. $14.19. They got $14.25. That has to do with the rounding. So our $14.19. That's going to be a close answer. The way that they probably did it was they did 900 times 0.19, and they got 171, and then divided that by 12, because times 1/12 is divided by 12. So divide that by 12, and you can see where they get their $14.25. Either one of those ways. The computer would do it with all of those threes going on, so it would turn out with this answer. All right, so let's go ahead and practice again. Here are a couple of got it problems. You know the plan. You're going to go ahead, pause the video, do the problem, do C, and then either turn the video back on, watch the answer for C before you do D, or go ahead and do C and D, but make sure you watch the C video and think about it before you watch the D part of the video. Because if you get C wrong, you want to figure out what you did wrong and then fix any mistakes in D so you have that one correct. All right, so go ahead and pause and then come back and we'll go through the explanation. Okay, letter C, Mrs. Hanover. She borrowed $1,400. That's the principal at a rate of 5%. That's the rate. And when you write it as a decimal, it's 0.055, 5.5%. 18 months is the time. How much will it cost her to repay the loan? So let's do the work for C right here. 1,400 times 0.055 times 8 months. 8 months out of 12 months, 4 goes into both of those, is 2 out of 3. So times 2/3. We're going to have a little practice here multiplying by fractions. So let's do that first part. 1,400 times 0.055. That's 77. I'll put it right down here. That's $77. That's $77 per year times 2/3. Well, here's the thing we know. It'll be less than 77 because it's less than a whole year. So now let's remember how we do multiplying fractions. I'm going to spread my work out right here. 77 times 2/3. Go ahead and put a 1 under that. All right, so we've got the 77 times 2, that's 154 divided by 3, because 1 times 3 is 3. So we have 154 divided by 3 is 51.33333. Those 3's repeat. In money, that's going to be $51.33. So she'll be paying, Mrs. Hanover is going to pay $51.33 to borrow $1,400 for 5.5% at 5.5% for 8 months. Okay, so check your work on that before you look at the answer to D. Pause again if you need to and check your D work to make sure you have it correct before you watch. Okay, in part D, the office manager charged $425 worth of office supplies on a credit card. It has an interest rate of 9.9%. So here's what we know so far. We know that the principal will be $425. The rate will be 0.099. How much will he owe at the end of 1 month if he makes no other charges on the card and does not make a payment? So there's a different kind of question being asked here than what we've done on the other examples. Let me underline that and say it again. How much will he owe at the end of a month if he makes no other charges and does not make a payment? Well, if he doesn't make a payment, he still owes the whole $425 plus the interest. So when we do D, our final answer will include both the interest and the principal. So let's go ahead and do D. Put our work right here. So we know the principal's $425, and we know the interest rate is 9.9%, and we know we're figuring out the interest for 1 month, 1/12. 1 month right here, where you see 1 month. Think of 1/12 of the year. So let's start figuring out what the interest would be. If it was a whole year, it would be 425 times 0.099. 42.075. That 5's going to round that 7 to an 8. So we know that if it was a whole year, the interest would be $42.08. That's how much interest they would charge if it was an entire. All right. Now, it's not an entire year, it's a 1/12 of a year. So we're going to multiply this by 1/12, and whenever you multiply by a fraction, it's easiest if you have a fraction times a fraction. So our 4208 times 1 is 4208. Our 1 times 12 is 12, and we can see that multiplying by this fraction actually turns into a division problem. $42.08. Let me do that again. $42.08 divided by 12 is $3.506677. So that's going to round to $3.51. But the question is not. So that's not our answer yet, though, because the question isn't how much is the interest. The question is how much will he owe? Remember, he didn't make a payment. So he owes the $425 plus he owes that $3.51 in interest. So altogether, he owes $428.51. That's the entire amount that he owes at the end of this transaction. Okay, so go back, and if you got $3.51 as your final answer, you just needed to understand the problem better. You needed to read the problem a little more carefully. And sometimes that happens. Okay, let's go to the next page. So we've got example 5, taking out a car loan, $5,000. He's going to pay the loan off in 2 years. At the end of 2 years, he will have paid $300 in interest. What's the rate on the loan? So now we're working backwards, and we're figuring out the rate. This time, the unknown part is right here. We know all the other parts. This is our unknown part. So we solve it just like we solve an equation. We multiply the 5,000 and the 2. We get 10,000 R. And then we divide by 10,000 because that's the coefficient. And we get an R of 3, or 0.03, which is 3%. Okay, so here's a got it problem where you can try that idea out. I'm going to leave it right here so there's lots of room for us to work. So go ahead, pause the video, do E, and then we'll come back together. Alrighty, letter E. So we know that Maggie took out a loan for $2,600. That's the principal. She's going to pay it off in 3 years. That's the time. At the end of it, she'll have paid $390. That's the interest. What was the rate? So we know that interest is $390. The principal is $2,600. The rate is unknown. We don't know what that is. We know the time is 3. So then $390 is equal to $2,600. I'm just going to regroup these. So I'm going to put together. Remember, multiplication, you can change the order around. So the $390 is equal to the $2,600 times the number of years times 3. That is 7,800 times R. 7,800 is our coefficient. So we're going to divide by 7,800. And when we do that, when we do 390 divided by 7,800, we get 0.05 is equal to R, which means the rate was 5%. That's what 0.05 is as a percentage. All right, guided practice time. Here you go. Let's do 1 and 2. So pause the video, do 1 and 2, and we'll come back and go through an explanation, and we'll be done with this. You'll be ready to come to class and talk about this on Monday. Okay, so you'll notice both these guided practice problems bring in the more complicated work that we did toward the end of this lesson. But that's That's understandable because it builds on the early work. So in question 1, and I'm going to point this out, and then if you need to pause again for a minute, pause again, or you may just need to add something. The Masters family financed a computer. It cost $1,200. That's the principal. Interest rate was 19%. That's the rate. Remember, as a decimal, that's 0.19. How much will the family owe after 1 month if no payments are made? So the time, we know the time is going to be 1/12. The answer will be the total amount they owe. So your answer is going to be principal plus the interest. So if you need to fix yours, pause for just a minute and fix yours, because a lot of people might have just done the interest. Okay, so let's go through. So we know that the interest will equal the 1,200 times the rate, 19%, times the time, 1/12. If we break this into parts, we have 1,200 times the 19%. That is $228 times the 1/12, which is the same as saying 228 over 1 times 1/12, which is going to be 228 over 12. 228 times 1, 1 times 12. That 228 divided by 12 is 19. So that is the interest. This is a principal plus interest problem. So to get our final answer, we need to take the 1,200 principal plus the $19 in interest. And the total amount they'll owe, if they make no payments at all, after 1 month, they will owe $1,219. That is our final answer. Okay, let me get my calculator out of the way and let's look at number 2. She received a loan for $4,500. She plans on paying the loan in 4 years. At the end of 4 years, she'll have paid $900 in interest. What's the simple interest rate on this loan? So we set up that equation. We know that the interest paid will be $900. We know that the principal amount is $4,500 times some unknown rate times 4. So that's what we're going to end up using as our multiplication to solve this problem. So we've got 900. We have 4,500. Let's get that calculator back out here. 4,500 times 4. That is 1,000, or excuse me, that's 18,000 times R. Divide both sides by the coefficient of 1,000, or I said it again, of 18,000. So take 900, divide it by 18,000, and you get 0.05 equals R, 5%. That's the rate that Samantha was paying. All right, there's a lot in this lesson. Take your time to really go over it. Come to class with questions. Come to class ready to practice. Thanks again for watching.